The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
Welcome to the O Show. I'm Laura Babcock, joined, of course, with Loren Lieberman, and I'll be introducing Loren in just a second. But first, let me tell you what's coming up on the program. We've got so much to talk about. As we're doing this, Council is discussing the big HECFI decision. It's decision day, and we're going to find out what's going to happen with Hamilton's entertainment facilities. Also, casino. The issue seems to keep getting bigger. What's going on? What's the latest? We'll give you all the information and debate that a little bit, I'm sure. We're going to talk about Auchmar Estate. What's happening? Is Council going to provide the money to fix that up? It's from Sir Isaac Buchanan, as you know. It's pretty important. We'll talk about that. And we're going to get into the Waterfront Trust. Has trust been renewed? Is there transparency, or is there something else coming up? Plus, we've got a lot of updates that I want to get to in just a second. But first, let's say hi to Loren, who was just at Council. You ran over here as fast as you can. How are you doing?
Good. We need to talk fast. Need to get back to the meeting. No, just kidding. Just kidding. I'm doing well. Today's a very big day.
I dare you to talk as fast as I can.
No, can't be done.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about some updates from last week's program. As you know, we talked about a number of different issues. We talked about Charlton House, and there were some councillors who expressed the same kind of disgust about it that certainly I did here on this program about the new tact being suggested by city staff. Also, there was a discussion last week about the crisis and homelessness here in Hamilton, and I had the opportunity to catch a tweet that went out from the communications person from our MPP Ted McMeekin, and you'll remember on last week's program, Loren suggested that this wasn't just a fight between council and the province, that the MPPs had to come to the table. So when I saw that tweet go out about a meeting that happened, I made sure I asked Ted McMeekin a couple questions on Twitter, and let's take a quick look at that little exchange because I think it's important. I saw the tweet come out from Mark Cripps. Thanks for coming by the office today to Hamilton Poverty. And I said, will Ted McMeekin take the fight to the Premier regarding the homeless crisis here in Hamilton? And Ted replied himself right away, you betcha, the Hostels to Homes program and New Good Shepherd Complex and Homestead Christian Homes, great examples of partnership, to which I followed up and I said, does this mean more funds from the province and or a relief of recent downloading costs for the homeless program? So I pushed him a bit on that, and here is his response. Ministry of Housing working with the city on a review of support. Questions need answers. Let's wait to see the review shows. So people who are following me on Twitter have since followed up and asked for when is that report coming out, Ted, and I've seen some comments from poverty activists in the city as well, so we'll keep you posted on that. But Loren, before we get into our big topic of HECFI, which I know you're all a Twitter about yourself, did you hear the music off the top of the show?
I did.
Pretty awesome, eh?
It's a significant upgrade.
Yeah, isn't that great? And do you know what? That was done actually by a viewer of the show, and I want to get the name right here. I don't want to say it wrong. Robert Ozakowski. I hope I said that right, Robert. Robert watched the first show, said, great show. Do you have a theme? We said, no, but if you want to give us one, we're happy to have it. And he produced that for us in just a week. So we love it. Thank you, Robert. You're a talented guy. And thanks for watching the O Show. Okay, let's get right into it. You just came from Council, Loren. If people could see you here in person, they'd see that there's a bit of sweat on your brow from running all the way over to the studio. Now, exciting stuff going on, and you, of course, this affects your life. You're part of the Carmen's bid.
Yes.
So let's get only the facts on this, and then we'll hear the latest from you.
Absolutely. So city staff recommends a selection of Carmen's to run the convention center. City staff also is recommending that council select Global Spectrum Live Nation to run Hamilton Place and Coliseum.
So those suggestions were kind of leaked or covered anyway in the Hamilton Spectator last week. So you've had now 6 days to wait for council to discuss your future, the future of Carmen's and Live Nation and Global Spectrum and all that. So tell us where we're at. What's going on at council?
So at the beginning, Tony told us the city treasurer was making the presentation, which explained where the staff recommendation comes from, a giant slideshow explaining the evaluation process and the rest of it. Then it went to a session of questions, very in-depth questions that were more about specifics within the contracts that don't exist yet because nobody is in a contract position until this gets approved. But make sure you remember this kind of thing, and remember when we dealt with the Port Authority, we got hosed this way, and then on the airport, this. So a decent discussion. Then it went in camera, and now I'm here. And then I figured by the time we're done, they'll be ready to, before it goes to a vote, of course, there will be the comments portion of things.
Right.
And then it'll go to a vote. And
so I was going to say, you know, as we've done on election programs here, if during the time of this taping of the O Show you happen to get on your iPhone or your BlackBerry news, let us know. But knowing that council's just starting the comments section, I'd be shocked if they get all their comments out on this in 20 minutes. We'll have to see. I don't know, did they use the exact word hosed, Lauren, or is that just your
that might be a slight change of the vernacular.
On a serious note, though, I've of course said on this program and elsewhere that I think the solution that was proposed by city staff after considering all the bids is a win-win-win. I think it's good to have Carmen's in there. I think it's good to have the global scope running Cops Coliseum. They've got real experience all around the world running big venues like that. I think that, you know, it's a good mix, and it's supposed to save. I mean, isn't the real goal of this whole process to take it from an arm's length agency of the city and to really save money? And so one of the questions that brought council in camera, I think, was the discussion that in fact there's going to be some costs in making this transition, right?
Sure. Nobody can suggest at this point what those costs concretely are going to be in terms of the transition, in terms of will people be taking buyout packages, the non-unionized staff, because of course any union position has to remain. I'm not in any position to be commenting directly on the status of anyone's job, but I'm sure that was what the in-camera discussions were about.
And anyone who's waited for council to come out of in-camera on a decision like this happens often. It can be kind of stressful, especially
it's tedious stuff when legal department is always weighing in and you've got HR there beside treasurer, and it's
but it's important. Now, do you think that even, let's say, those costs of the transition, by transition, I'm throwing in, you know, changes to employment and all that kind of stuff. Let's say it's about $2 million, just to pull a number out of the air. Do you think that a cost like that, which might represent, you know, a year's worth of savings on the life of this contract of 10 years, do you think that that kind of cost could be a deal breaker for council?
No, I don't. No? It's one of the slides that went up that said, just this process has cost the city over $400,000, for example, which is eaten in a part of the cost that will be allocated to transition. It's money well spent if, in fact, there's long-term savings year after year guaranteed moving forward. I don't think it's going to be a hurdle at all. All
right. Well, it'll be exciting to see what happens. And, of course, we'll let you know if we find out during the course of this taping. You
call me for free tickets. We're good.
Or follow us on Twitter. I'm sure we'll be tweeting about it all evening. Okay, so that's what's going on with that, and it's decision day at HECFI. But something that isn't directly tied into that, but became part of the HECFI discussion was the fact that Carmen's, Peter Mercanti mentioned that he'd had some discussions about casinos in the core, and that set off at least one councillor back in the summer saying, well, what's going on here? If Carmen's gets running of the convention center, I don't know if that has anything to do with the casino issue, Lauren. You would know that more than I do. But let's get to only the facts on the casino issue, because since last week when we talked about it, it's gotten to be an even bigger discussion in town. Yeah, it is an evolving issue for sure. Only the facts for the casino. The OLG rejected council's request to delay a decision on interest in a casino. Some councillors do not want a casino downtown without a referendum in 2014's municipal election. So what it is that occurred, OLG made their presentation, and 29 different casino regions have been developed as potential casino locations throughout the province. Hamilton's region includes Burlington, and the OLG province-wide is working on a timeline and trying to figure out where they're going to put casinos province-wide. And our council asked, would it be okay if we waited until 2014? And the answer was no. And also, I think we asked, can we have a referendum now, but it'll cost $1 million, so how about you, the province, pay for it? And I believe the answer was also no. You know, and I have to stand corrected, because at the conclusion of our discussion on this last week here on the O Show, I believe I said that council had had some success in pushing the province timelines back, circa Pan Am. But this time around, the province said absolutely not. They were going to consider it for a couple of weeks, and didn't they come back just the next day, Lauren, and say, nope, you have to let us know yes or no? It's not as simple as that. The province and the OLG will be dealing with these potentially 29 casinos in various clusters. There won't be 29 different operators. And if you're going to be having the RFP process
be somewhat clustered. You can't complete a cluster. Let's suggest that KW or Guelph or Milton or Hamilton would be in the mix with all of those. All of those communities need to sit and wait till 2014. The OLG is pretty clear. Yes, no. You want a casino or don't you?
And part of the challenge, of course, though, is the fact that we're looking at Flamborough Downs, and I did a column on this in Urbanicity, the fact that there's 4.5 million or so that we're already addicted to coming from those slots. The idea of not having that there represents a problem for a city that's cash-strapped. But the chances of having a casino in the core is what's problematic for myself and many other people. So does council now say, Loren, in your opinion, yes, we're interested in a casino generally without committing to the core so that Flamborough can stay on the table and then, you know, evolve the negotiations from there?
My understanding is that Councillor Marula and Councillor McHattie want to move a motion that says no casino, period.
Okay.
And I think that's very different. By no means is this just a matter of whatever Mr. Mercanti is talking about and Flamborough Downs. There's all kinds of gaming opportunities being discussed for all bits and pieces of this city. And we'll see how it all turns out, because nobody can do anything without council's approval.
I mean, in that case, so don't you think that council needs to just ask, say, yes, we're interested generally in being a casino zone, and then go forward? And as somebody said in the paper today, a letter to the editor, they said, why doesn't council have, you know, community meetings if they really want to find out from constituents without the referendum process?
Well, I'm curious as to if there was a referendum, and we all know that referendums need to be really cut and dried, really simple questions.
Well, we had one on this before, way back.
Right, and that was really simple. We didn't abide by it, mind you. We still got a sort of casino in the slots that is up there, and it didn't seem to bother anybody too much. But the question would be, if we had a referendum, is it casino, yes and no? Yes or no? Is it slots okay, but not full casino?
I think it's casino in the core. I think that's the issue. That's what really has people concerned.
That's a tough question to ask, that you make one part of the city more important and protected from any other. That's
and we know you never think that anyone treats the core that way. Okay. Let's take a quick look at City Hall live, see what's going on. Oh, it looks like they're still in camera. Is that what you judge by that?
Oh, now they're on a break.
Oh, are they?
All right.
Okay.
Or it's over.
We know they're working hard. Why isn't your phone going off if it's over?
Somebody would have sent me a text if they had come back.
I'm sure they're working harder than it looks at this moment. Okay.
Yeah, sandwich time.
Yeah, council's got a lot going on, of course. We've just talked about HECFI decision day. We talked about the casino. Do we go to a referendum? It sounds like that's going to be too late. Do we consult the community? I think that's a pretty good idea. But ultimately, council's got to make a decision pretty quickly, because the OLG is not going to wait. So interesting. We'll keep on that development, of course. Something else, though, that has come up in the last week since we did our program, Loren, was council was invited to a special off-site General's Issue Committee meeting at Auchmar.
Yes.
And let's get to only the facts on this, and then we'll debate it.
So, only the facts for Auchmar. The city owns Sir Isaac Buchanan's estate on Fennell Avenue. City staff recommending council to turn it into a civic meeting and reception facility.
Now, they got that in a land swap back in, I think, '99, and they've got it, but there hasn't been a lot of upkeep to it. And so now we're in a situation where, what do we do with this? It's almost, I don't want to use a U.S. financial expression, but it's almost too big to fail. It's too beautiful to not keep. It's got some historic significance. So city staff are recommending that it be turned into a place where there could be weddings, where there could be city meetings, there could be some rental opportunities there. They wanted council to come and look at the place themselves before they made that very important spending decision, and there weren't enough councillors there to even make quorum. What do you think, Loren?
I think that some councillors are predetermined elsewhere when a meeting like that comes up. I don't know that anybody who is elected to council should be in that position without being very familiar with the issue of Auchmar. And I think it is entirely scandalous. If I may, at the beginning of the Harry Potter phase, there was some B-level television show called Strange Days at Blake Halsey High that shot exclusively at Auchmar. The city made hundreds of thousands of dollars in location fees, and not one dime went back in that facility. And it is disingenuous for the City of Hamilton Economic Development Department, Culture Department, Movie Department, anybody has forgotten that entirely. Tons of money was coming in, and now you don't know what to do with it and who should pay for it. That all went back into city coffers or otherwise, and everybody who has been anywhere near a movie shoot knows when those guys come in, they pay huge dollars, they also cause a lot of damage. And they have made that place a whole lot worse, but left behind huge dollars that did not go back in the facility. And that's shameful.
Wow. Scandalous or shameful, two big words coming out of you, Loren. I didn't
realize. It's a beautiful building.
Yeah, I didn't realize that history, and I didn't see that as part of the recent narrative on the council decision.
And you won't, but there's actually some things. I don't forget everything I once knew. And I remember that show shooting here year after year after year, exclusively at that location.
Wow, well, I'm glad you brought that up. And if, in fact, it happened as you recall it happened, then there needs to be some explaining about that. Okay, thanks very much, Loren. More on Auchmar as we go forward. But from my point, I mean, I drive by it all the time. It is gorgeous. It's part of our history. It has significance. We really need to protect that building. And if we can make money out of it by using it strategically, let's do it. But
Laura, have you ever been in there?
I haven't been in. I just drive by it all the time. It's beautiful.
It was built and as a home, and then it was altered for World War I vets. And it really has a large part of it is very suited for hospice care or a residence or something, just without making major structural changes. There is a ton of little rooms. It's like a barracks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that they said there's fruit trees that are original that still bear fruit, which I think is extremely cool.
It's an amazing building.
Buy local, eat local, all that good stuff. Okay, speaking of local, let me thank a couple of people locally who help me show up here on the O Show, and that is to Pennington's. They have great wardrobe there. Thank you so much, guys. Check out Pennington's fall collection right now, and also Madison Avenue Salon and Spa. Reno and the gang just do a great job. Thanks so much, guys, for that. Let's get into our last topic here before we get to our way to goes, Loren. And this is something that came up especially during the summer, let's say back in June. The Bay Observer editor, John Best, has been working hard doing some old school investigative journalism at how money is being spent on the Waterfront Trust. So let's get to only the facts on this, and you can tell us a little bit more about it.
The Waterfront Trust this summer, the Bay Observer raised concerns over the financials within the Waterfront Trust itself. Council defended the trust amid public appeals for more transparency.
Now, we had a chance to talk to John. We did a special Laircast in the summer, and we'll post information on that in a few minutes. At that point, he was talking about that there was a corrosive culture happening, something that was, you know, there was the way that the trust was being operated with city dollars. Maybe council was too close to the trust. Maybe some things were happening that weren't good practice for the city generally. But it was hard to really sniff out real financial mismanagement, at least in my position when we talked to John. And subsequently, when it's gone to council were pretty vehement in their defense of how the fund is operating.
One issue at a time within the Bay Observer. I'm not sure if that's the right way to really create a landslide of public support for or against anything. And as much as it may be...
So you're saying they're dripping the scandal, so it doesn't mount to an ocean of anything?
I don't know if it's peeling an onion. I don't know if it's being written as it comes. But mini scandal at a time is not garnering the support. And I'm going to say something that nobody in local media has said, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but when Gary Santucci, who came before council, guns a-blazing with all his questions in regards to that, and council was so dismissive and...
Well, they asked if he knew how to do accounting and other things, made it personal.
And I think the point I want to make is that had nothing to do, in my opinion, with the issue, and more to do with Gary Santucci.
Well, the Pearl Street that he operates has been
a thorn to council for years.
Right.
And Gary has been a giant pain in their butt. And whether he's right or wrong or
now, you know,
good
Gary
guy
watches
or not,
this show, so you're going to be apologizing next week.
This isn't a shot on Gary. But why every other local media outlet said this, you know, it was just really strange. He comes in with these legitimate questions. Why did they treat him like that? And the answer, I'm answering it, is because it was Gary Santucci. That's why. So
you're suggesting that if another delegation had come in armed with the facts that John has uncovered in the Bay Observer, and the Hamiltonian's been on this as well, there was an exchange we talked about before between different councillors in the Hamiltonian.
Laura, not only am I suggesting that, I know that. When I stand in front of council and make a delegation, I'm the guy from TV who holds their feet to the fire. And whether that gives me more credibility or costs me attention,
you got a bit of a shot from Councillor Whitehead, which we since resolved in a subsequent Laircast.
Terry and I are pals.
So your point is that council are human, and if somebody comes in front of council where they have other issues, that it might preclude them from looking at the situation. But it's not just council. The Hamilton Spectator has done lots and lots of positive coverage of the trust. It seems as though, you know, the Bay Observer is a lone wolf on this, that nobody nobody seems to be picking up that there's a real scandal here. They are cutting their deficits. They expect a lot of profits. We talked about this even during the Summer Opinion Fest. So is there really an issue with trust with the Waterfront Trust, Loren, or is this just something that maybe a couple of enemies of the trust are trying to dredge up?
If you read everything that John Best has written in secession, then there's something going on there. Then there's too much of there's too many little drops for it not to be something, in my opinion. But what do I know?
You're only the guy on TV that holds council's feet to the fire, according to you. Okay, and right now council's holding your future to feet to the fire.
There you go.
In their HECFI decision.
Fair's fair.
Fair's fair, right? Okay, let's do some way to goes. End the show on a positive note here. We've got a lot of good things happening in our community. Let's check out our way to goes. I want to say a big way to go shout out to the 9 new inductees of the Sports Hall of Fame, and of course Ange Mosca, one of the most famous of the group, is being inducted. It surprises me he wasn't in there before, but good for you, Ange.
You would have thought he'd be inaugural.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't say enough. Chris Eklund and his army for what they did for the Taylor Prock family. I was there to witness it, the way they mobilized and got this family settled. Huge way to go, not just for Chris and his army, but the whole community for helping out. Way to go, indeed.
Now, was that the family that had the fire?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what, that's Chris.
Oh, did he go the extra mile there? And by no means is he alone on that, but he took a leadership position.
You know, my way to go coming up is to the Hamilton community in general, not just for this recent case, but you remember even a few weeks back when a woman was robbed, a mother, from her son's wheelchair, and you know all the back-to-school money was taken, and the city jumped to her aid as well, and that's just how Hamiltonians do it. So you know what, we're a generous community. Let's, amidst all of our political intrigue, let's not forget that. Way to go, Hamilton. And there's one more way to go for you here.
My way to go is for Sam Snyder and Sam the Record Man on a life well lived. There haven't been too many people in this country, in the music industry, and also certainly he was a part of things here in Hamilton. So Sam the Record Man, one of a kind, way to go for a wonderful life.
Well, you know, I have to say I was working out on the treadmill earlier today because I'm working hard at finally getting off the baby weight, and I happened to see your mug looking rather clean shaven, I must say, on one of the big monitors. And I think it was CH, their news channel, had you weighing in on Sam's life. There have been lots of tributes. I guess you're representing somebody from the music world here in Hamilton. But is that a kind of life you want to emulate? Are we going to be looking back, Loren Lieberman, Music Man, life well lived?
The music industry, first of all, I used to be very close with Sam's older brother, Sid. Sid the Record Kid, as it were. It's the Snydermans, Sam Feldman, Bernie Finkelstein, Bernie Fiedler, are the 4 pillars of Canadian music. There would be no Neil Young, no Gordon Lightfoot. We would not have the music we have today without the Canadian music pioneers. Do I strive to be like that? I couldn't imagine.
So let me ask you this very unfair question. If, in fact, Carmen's does get the bid for the convention center operations that we're waiting to hear from in HECFI, are you still going to do Festival of Friends next year? I have to be the first to ask.
The Festival of Friends will continue. It is a significant event in our summer schedule.
Excellent political answer, saying probably not you running it. Okay. In case anyone needed to
I don't want to give the viewers hope out there that it can finally be good now that I'm gone.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just do a couple quick little promos here before we let you go. One is that Laircast that I mentioned, you can listen to John Best. He's the editor of the Bay Observer. He's the one working on this Waterfront Trust story. Loren and I talked to him just a month or 2 ago. I don't think much has changed since our conversation, so check that out at laircast.com. And again, that's just laircast.com. John Best's Laircast is right up there. It's audio, and it's not like the O Show. It's very relaxed, very casual. I interrupt a lot, just so you know. More than I interrupt here. Okay. Also, I want to make sure you check out the Opinionators. They have a new night this season. It's on Thursday night. Check out Tara and Ron and Alex. And they're going to be talking about provincial issues. And man, are there things happening with the McGuinty Liberals with those power plants. So you want to check that out Thursday night. We'll see you next Tuesday on the O Show. Tweet us what you want us to talk about.